When buying a used caravan, people give a lot of attention to the layout, the price, and the overall look of the caravan. But is that the most important thing, you may be asking yourselves? Today, we're going to answer that question. After looking what we need to check on the outside, we're going to dive into the internal part of the caravan checks before you actually purchase one. Let's do it. Hello and welcome again to the Caravan Doctor, the one place you need to stop before purchasing your next caravan. What are we going to be looking at today is the continuation of our little series, what do you need to check before purchasing your next used caravan? So let's get straight to the bits that want to catch your attention on today's episode. So second-hand caravans are the majority on the market, and they vary from layouts, pricing and shape they're into. But we need to be vigilant. As on the outside that we've looked at last time, we need to be even more vigilant on the inside, because everything that could be caused from the external condition of the caravan is going to show in its internal form. So let's jump into what do I check before purchasing a caravan. So when I enter into a caravan, I'd like to first have a general feel of the overall state of it. Have a nice look around right by the door and see the state of the caravan, basically meaning how it's been used. Is there any straightaway noticeable damage or something that is not supposed to be looking like that from your entry point? So when you go in, I usually just stand around the door and have a nice good look at the sofas, at the front end as much as I can see it, the cabinets, how they look. Is there any missing handles or anything like that that can catch my attention? Also, everything that is right in front of me, like the kitchen bits, fridge, sink. Is there a water pump like we've got on the top here at the minute? The cooker, grill and the hobs as well. Is there anything additional, like for example here we've got this little microwave that is a bonus to the caravan. Right above it we see the fan, lights, the roof hatch that we've got, and we have a little view of the sleeping quarters as well. And then gradually start walking through the caravan. And just in general, have a nice walk through all the rooms and the space that you have in the caravan. This will give you an overall feel of the state of the caravan at first. Going towards the bathroom, having a look at the bed, just the top of it. What sort of cabinets do we have lying around? How many? Are they going to be enough for what we need? Also entering into the bathroom. Here we see the toilet, the little wash basin that we've got in there, and the shower cubicle, which is positioned right in the corner. So whilst doing that, you get a general feel of how the caravan's been looked at and also how it has been used. If there's any visible marks, like on the cabinets for example, or on the walls, any writing or any discoloration. But that is just the overall thing that we do right when we enter the caravan. Now we're going to get into a little bit more depth with checking the individual corners and areas that are most crucial before you purchase. And now coming back to the individual bits, we want to aim to the front of the caravan, where we want to make sure that all the windows are opening up. That is a must that you have to check, because these windows, simply looking, they are not that simple to repair, and furthermore they are rather expensive, especially the front ones, because they're a little bit bigger and they're attached to the caravan in a different way, not like the ones you have on the sides. Be sure also to check that they lock up in all of the possible positions they're made to do. Otherwise, changing the little arms that you have on the sides, again, if you have to look for them second-hand, not that expensive but hard to find. If you have to buy them brand new, they're gonna be a little bit more money. Also, whilst in the front, have a good look of the front wall. This is a place where usually there is a lot of potential for damage and water ingress. So make sure you slide all the curtains in a position that it shows you the actual corner. You need to be feeling this nice and hard. There shouldn't be any softness or discoloration at the joint point. That is very important and shows you that there isn't any problems coming from the outside, because the joint where the front and the top panel is right above the windows usually. Any water that enters there is going to start showing up on your side or your front wall. Also above the walls you've got these cabinets, which usually have a nice entry point right to where the caravan's joints are. And if you go nice and deep with your hand, you're going to be able to feel the actual joint, which will again give you an indication of how is the internal look of the frame underneath that point. But make sure you check the state from both sides, because sometimes one of the corners is patched up like that to form that little cabinet. Let me show you a little bit closer what that means. So here, when this cabinet opened, we've got a little blocking board that just forms the shape of this cabinet. That doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be touching the walls and the ceiling in this cabinet as well, but that is not that important as is this one, because this cabinet shows us exactly the joint of the top and the front panel, and if there's any problems, they will start showing up straight in there. Be sure to do that on both sides as well. Just an extra precaution. That means that you've checked the top corners and you're happy with the state of them. If there's any softness or damp, start asking the relative questions. There could be a good reason or just neglect from the previous owners. A little bonus tip is to have a look in this area, because people usually forget to check right above the blinds. They could be hiding some problems usually that you don't want to mess with. So make sure you have your hand in there and press nice and firmly to see if everything is solid. Also check that all your blinds and fly screens are operating correctly on all the windows and other roof hatches that you might have in your caravan. Because again, they're a hard thing to find second hand to match exactly to the original ones that you have. And if you want to purchase them new, they are expensive. But the more interesting bit is not only around the windows. We want to go down, underneath, in the area where problems are usually located. And that is the joint of the floor and the side panels. For us to do that, we have to take all the cushions that are in our way out. And this is how it looks on the underside. What we want to check now is that the continuation of the wall, where the two panels join, down here, is nice and dry. Basically, down there should not be any softness or any discoloration. As is on the floor, same thing on the walls. Be sure to touch everything nice and firm so you get a nice good feel of it, because this is the simplest check you can do. Just by a touch, it will give you an indication if the walls or the floor are in a condition that is not suitable for use and needs attention. So make sure you do that on both sides, just to be aware of the state of the bottom of the caravan in the front. Whilst in the front part of the caravan, make sure you open up all the doors as well, just to be sure that they operate correctly. This way, you'll be able to identify where your 12-volt fuse box is, because usually they're close to the boiler. Around the fuse board, there's usually other controls which are for different stuff around the caravan. But you can find what is for what through the manuals that the caravan is supposed to have with it. One more thing that you need to be vigilant of whilst walking through the caravan is the sturdiness of the floor. Your normal weight should not make the floor flex too much. And what I mean by that, there shouldn't be any additional movement as you walk freely through the caravan. If you stump a little bit, the floor should not flex that much. That will mean if that's happening, then there's probably a problem with the floor. But that is something that you would be able to notice on the external checks, which you've already done. And moving through the caravan, you just go to the next section, which in our case is the kitchen. Have a look at the fridge, open it up, see the state of it. If the freezer door is opening up, if there's anything broken or messy in there, make sure if there's a battery, which usually there should be one, to be able to show you everything operating, the fridge turns on. Also, we want to check the oven and grill. If everything is in place, there's nothing broken, all the doors operate correctly, all the buttons are in place, and that they all work. We would really like to see everything operating before we actually purchase. Being in the kitchen part of the caravan, you would really want to see that there is a water pump in here, and if possible water to be supplied to the caravan so you can see it actually working and all the taps are in good order. But whilst you're in the different areas, do not forget to do your checks on the walls by touching firmly all around the windows and opening up all the cupboards to check the relative areas at the top, middle or at the bottom. And by the bottom I mean places like that. This little cabinet would actually holds the valves for your gas and also shows you the cover of the wheel arch. You want to get nice and inside there, touching the walls and the floor to be sure that there is no water ingress from there. Also, if you could see, there are the two pipes for your water. If something leaks from the tap which is right on top of them, that'll start showing in here. That is a nice way for you to spot if there's any leakages in your water system. Turning around to the door side, you want to find where your main panel is to see if everything is good with it. Anything missing, in our case we've got a button missing, which is not the end of the world. We can replace that. Now we can switch on the master button and check if there's any voltage in our battery. Our one is looking good for the minute. You might need a little charge, but still. And also looking around the door frame, because that is another big opening that we want to check if there's any softness around it, around these parts of the fly screen that is installed in here. Also, if that opens up and closes back properly. That is another thing that you want to check whilst you're in this area. Also the cabinets. Go in there, open them up, see that there's nothing that worries you. Have a feel of the back wall, if there's any loose panels or anything like that. That is another indicator of the state of the Caravan. Coming down here in our example, we've got the Truma heating, which I need to put back on, but usually should be sitting nice and flush to the panel that is attached to. Also, if you've got an access point, like here, have a look around the wheel arch and everything that is in the back there. It needs to be nice and dry and without any signs of damage. So here we come to the last checks at this front part of the Caravan. As we want to switch the lights on, we want to touch around the hatches just to make sure that everything's alright and the roof is not sagging. Also, we want to have a look at any other ones that we have further down in the Caravan. But that sort of concludes our halfway check of the front bit of the Caravan. Just as a note, don't forget, if you can, ask please to get everything shown that is working properly. That'll save you a lot of headaches and it'll kind of prepare you for your own use of the Caravan, knowing how to switch on the gas, the grill, the water and all the major components that the Caravan will have. And now we're going towards the backside, entering in our sleeping quarters. We see here that we've got a door that separates the both compartments. In our case, this is a nice flexi little shutter which just wants to catch on with a magnet like that. Check if it works properly. There is also a cabinet at the top which could fit a TV and the outlets are right in there. Make sure you check if they all work on 240. And now we enter into the bedroom where you can firstly see the big fixed bed that we've got in this Caravan. Also what we can find here is the big wardrobe that we've got for all your personal items to hang in. There is a smaller compartment at the bottom as well which shows you the wheel arch. Be sure to check all the walls and go right in there and touch every place around the wheel arch. That'll show you if there's any water coming in from that point of the Caravan. Also around here we've got the window. Again, same procedure. Be touching all the way around the window. If everything is nice and firm, that means good. Do the same thing on the opposite side. Open it and touch the walls. Open up the cabinets as well and have a look into the far corners, because these are again places that are suitable for water ingress. Just be aware of your surroundings and how the Caravan is laid out. This wall being the back of the bathroom, up to here is not that much of a problem because it's the actual panel. But here and in the corners is right behind the shower cubicle. So we want to have a nice firm touch over there so you're sure that there is no water coming in from the shower cubicle in between that gap. And the next thing, which is again really important, is for you to look on the underneath of the bed. The underside of the bed is a place that you do not want to miss because again, we see the wheel arch in there. We want to have a nice firm feel of the floor and the panel that is right in the side there. Also, we see the continuation of our water pipes. We want to have a good look around the connections if there's any leaks in there that might indicate the need of repair. Also, we here see is the pipe that leads the hot air from the Truma blow air heating all the way back to the bathroom. Have a good look at that as well. The frame of the bed needs to be in good shape. Nothing broken or missing, or if it is broken or missing, again you'll have to play around with the price if you want to do it yourself. But just have a good look around so you're confident of the state of the Caravan. And now we're entering into the most crucial part of the Caravan, that is the bathroom. Whilst entering, we do our standard checks if the floor is nice and solid and there's no extra bounciness in it. Also, we have a look at our toilet. Just have a good look around it, that it don't look damaged in any way. If there's a battery, try if it works. Make sure that there's a cassette in there, otherwise that'll cost you a little bit more money. Then going through, have a look at the windows. Again, doing our regular checks if they're all open and if everything's sturdy around them. Have a look at the top of your wall, as much as it's exposed or being in cabinets. Open them up and go right in there. Check these corners, make sure that there's no damp and there's no signs of water coming through. As is in that corner down there, nice and firm on both sides. Going through, check the hatch, if the hatch opens correctly, like you want to do with all the rest of the hatches in the Caravan. Just make sure that everything works. Also around areas like that, you want to have water in the system of the Caravan to check if that's working. Also on the underside, be sure to take a look at where the pipes are running from and how are they connected. That'll show you if there has been any leaks before. Go into the corners and check for the conditions of the panels and the pipes. And lastly, the most important bit, the bathroom. Open up the bathroom and have a nice good look around it. This one needs a little clean, but I have checked it already and I know it is in good working order. The panels need to be nice and firm there shouldn't be any cracks on them, and all the edges should be sealed correctly. Even if it looks like that, that might mean that the seal wants replacement, but that is nothing major that you need to be worrying about. Also, again, if we've got water, that means that we can get the shower to operate, so we can make sure that that does not need attendance later on in time. But the most important bit of the bathroom is the floor, because usually the problems are around this area. There is a slightly bigger hole on the underside where if you step harshly, you may break the shower tray, and then water will start moving around through the floor of the Caravan. So make sure you go in and check nicely around all the corners that the shower tray is in good shape, and so are the panels next to it. What you want to do as well is actually step in to see if everything's alright. That is probably the best way that you can have a feel of the shower of the Caravan. See if it's tall enough for you, does it suit, if the doors open and close correctly, and if there's anything that you might need to give attention to. And there you have it. After circling around the Caravan and touching all of the different areas, top, middle and bottom, walls, windows, looking underneath all the beds and the sitting areas, making sure that there is no damp or water ingress or signs of previous water ingress somewhere, you should be happy with the state of your Caravan. The next thing you want to do is have all the equipment hooked up and shown that it's working properly. Otherwise, you know what needs to happen. We need to negotiate a good price, because all these things will need to get addressed either by you or by the seller. And this is pretty much everything I would say you want to check on the inside of the Caravan. There is obviously specific models that have different layouts, but if you're consistent and you go through all these little checkpoints that I've given you up until now, I doubt there is something that you would skip to check, because overall, all Caravans are the same and suffer with the same problems. You just need to know how to find them. We've looked at the exterior of the Caravan and the interior of the Caravan. Do save these videos as a checklist when you go and check before your next purchase. I hope all this would help you, and I'll see you in the next one.